Hi everyone, Lady Amalthea here, and today, yes, I'm doing a video 2 days in a row, amazing. Today I'm doing the 40 Questions Witchy Tag. Now, I found this in a Katey Flowers video, who is probably one of my new favorite channels, yay Aussie pagans, yay! And she did this tag in 2015, so it's not exactly recent, but I figure as I'm building this channel and, getting myself out there, these are the kind of things I can do. So why not? I apologize in advance for constantly looking down, but I do not have the questions memorized. So question 1, what kind of a witch are you? Now that's a tricky question because that's something I'm still trying to understand for myself. But first and foremost, I do consider myself a witch. I self-identify that way. I consider myself a queer witch. Queerness is part of my identity, so it is part of my spiritual practice. I consider myself a witch who loves the moon, who loves working with spirit and working with fae. So yeah, also divination. And yeah, that'll do for now. Not an easy answer, but in terms of practices, I follow the tradition of reclaiming. How did you discover your path? Also a tricky one. I have always come from a family of mixed spiritualities, let's put it that way. In my home as a teenager, we had a copy of the Ten Commandments on the wall, and underneath that was a beautiful Buddha statue. So yeah, it's a mix in my family. My father's side was Methodist, my mother's side is Catholic, and we've kind of met somewhere in the middle. I grew up with Seventh-day Adventism when I was a young child, so that was the basis of my beliefs for a long time. I also, for the last couple of years, until I left the church a few years ago, was Church of Christ, which is another form of Protestantism, which is something I've been involved in on and off since the age of about 8, I believe. So that's also been a big influence on me. I guess, in Western culture, you're always aware of the concept of the witch. That's, a figure in stories, the Wicked Witch, the Good Witch, Glinda, the Good, and like all those kinds of figures. So I had awareness of that, and certainly, like, we, as a family, my mother took my sister and I to a meditation center when I was in high school, and I still use the meditations from that today. We got a copy of their CD, and I still use it today. I don't know if my mum does. And so, like, they weren't kind of taboo subjects, but yeah, we weren't explicitly Christian. Like, we didn't go to church every Sunday. Well, we did for a while, and Saturday when we were Seventh-day Adventists. But in high school, I left Christianity for quite some time, and I've never stopped believing in certain aspects of my faith, which I prefer to keep to myself at this moment. But I, for a time, considered myself a Christian witch. I thought I could reconcile Christianity and witchcraft, but it turns out I couldn't. Um, I I left, yeah, I left the church a few years ago. The death of my father had a really big impact on my faith. So I guess New Age had been around in my family for my whole life. And I wandered in and out of that path. And I guess it's the last couple of years that witchcraft has really been my thing. It's getting stronger all the time. It's certainly growing. I would still call myself a baby witch. Not a huge fan of that term, but especially at age 33. But yeah, I'm always learning which is the important thing. I know that was a very rambly answer, but oracle cards and divination was kind of how I got to where I am, I suppose. Yeah. How long have you been practicing? I've been calling myself a witch for two years now, I think. But I've always had that within me. So that's, yeah, I don't know. Like, I've always considered myself magical. I had a screen name at one point that had magical in the name. In fact, that's how my Xbox signs in, is magical so-and-so. Um, and yeah, like, I've always considered myself to have aspects of magic, but I guess it's only really recently that I would call myself a witch. What tradition do you follow? Oh, reclaiming. I already mentioned that, and I did talk about reclaiming a bit yesterday. It's a path that grew out of the books of Starhawk, the spiral dance, the feminist and activist and movement of the 70s in the San Francisco Bay Area. And it's something that I have strong belief in and really love. Sorry, where was I? Are you solitary or do you have a coven? Very much solitary, never been in a coven. Have been to a few workshops, classes, currently in a class, but yeah, I would consider myself a solitary practitioner. Do you practice divination? What kinds? Oh, yes, I certainly do. Oracle and tarot for sure. I have definitely done other kinds that do not come to mind right now, but those are my two main methods. Would you teach witchcraft to your children? I can't have kids, so no, that's not an option. If I did have kids, I wouldn't enforce upon them anything. I would share my beliefs and let them find their own way. Do you have a patron / matron deity? Now, for many years now, I've had since about 2006, I think. Wow, that's a long time. I've had Artemis with me, so I guess I could call her my matron. And in the past, the Egyptian goddess Bast certainly was one. Favorite pantheon? Oh, this is so hard, don't make me choose. Growing up, definitely the Egyptian pantheon was my favorite, along with the Greek pantheon. Nowadays, probably I would say Norse and Celtic, but I love all pantheons. I love all of them. Oh my goodness. Favorite goddess? Ooh, so hard. Big fan of moon goddesses such as Artemis, goddesses of wisdom such as Athena, goddesses of strength like Sekhmet. Oh, Sekhmet, I love her. She's Egyptian for those of you unfamiliar. And did I say Bridget? I feel like I didn't say Bridget, but Bridget is definitely one of the goddesses I work with and absolutely adore. Also, Sedna just came to mind as a goddess I love, who is an Inuit goddess. Not sure specifically of which peoples of the Inuit peoples. I would have to look that up. Favorite god? Ooh. Now, I don't know if this is because masculine energy isn't as big a thing for me, but it's harder to pick a favorite god for me. I would certainly say Ganesh, the Indian elephant-headed god, and Hanuman are two of my favorites. Oh, there's this adorable Bollywood cartoon movie about Hanuman, and oh, it's just so good. Hanuman being the Monkey King, who is also found in Chinese mythology. And some of you may know the show Monkey, which is a Japanese retelling of the show, of the Chinese story, which was very popular here in Australia in my childhood. So yeah, those would be the two gods that spring immediately to mind. Sun sign is Scorpio, and my moon sign is Pisces or Virgo. I want to say Pisces. Now I'm not sure. Do you have a familiar? No. I do not consider my dog my familiar. Some people might assume I do, simply because he and I have such a strong bond. In the dog-loving community, we have a term which is heart dog, and that is the dog that you love with your heart and soul. And basically, I believe soulmates can come in many forms, and it's not just romantic partner, and Gimli is my soulmate in dog form. We have such a strong bond, and we've only been together for a short time, but it's been such a magical connection. But he's definitely not my familiar. He is not a magical animal at all. He is not even slightly magical in the magic sense, but he is incredibly magical in a mundane sense, because I adore him. I adore him beyond measure. And I've never had a familiar. Maybe I will in the future. I don't know. I can't predict that. I do have a boggart, however. Now, a boggart is a term for a Celtic house fae who lives in your house and sometimes cleans, sometimes destroys. My boggart once turned all my teaspoons into soup spoons. He plays pranks when he feels unattended, and when he's not getting attention. Like when I was in hospital last year after my surgery, I was in a rehab hospital, and I had this brand new bed. It's the only one they had in the hospital, and it was perfect, except the brake kept coming off, and they couldn't understand why. And it was quite dangerous because I didn't have good control of my legs at that point. So the bed moving when I didn't want it to move was quite dangerous, and I almost had a really bad fall. And I discovered that it was actually my boggart who had come to hospital with me and was like, "What, you thought I was going to leave you alone?" So I guess the boggart is the closest I have to a familiar, but I wouldn't call him a familiar because we don't work magic together. But he certainly is like I want to call him my little protector, and we've been together for such a long time. I'm honestly not sure how long. I think I know which house I collected him in. When I was a teenager, one of the houses I lived in, I think that's where he came from, because there was a spirit who lived in the bathroom, and that spirit became attached to me, and I think it's him, but I'm not 100% positive. So yeah, I guess, sorry, I'm a bit rambly. Thoughts on the afterlife. Now, this is a pretty complicated topic for a lot of people, but I don't have a fear of death. And yes, I did mention earlier that my beliefs changed when my father died, but it wasn't in terms of a fear of death. I'm not scared of dying. I'm scared to lose life, which is a very different thing. And although that's not really true, I don't know. I'm scared to lose the ones I love. That's what I'm scared of. And I guess there are times where I have believed, in the concepts of heaven and hell, and, you end up there when you die, blah, blah, blah. But I don't currently believe in that. I am of that kind of matter can't be created or destroyed. That may be by the particle accelerator at CERN, but that's a different story. And you continue to exist even if it's another form. Even if I continue to exist as a rock, I'm still here. I know for sure that my dad is still here because I have done magic with him since he has passed. I have communed with him since he has passed. The strongest place for that is at his gravesite where his ashes are buried, but unfortunately that's now on the other side of the country, so I anchor myself in different ways now, but certainly I feel like he's still here with me, even though he passed away 3 years ago now. Monday will be the anniversary of his funeral, actually, so that's going to be a pretty hard day for me. And yeah, no, sorry, that just has kind of thrown me. So yeah, I guess I believe that, I don't know if souls are a thing, or like, because I definitely have a sense of past lives. I've had very real visions of past lives, but I don't know if that's tapping into the collective consciousness, or those are memories my soul has been gifted, or what happens. And frankly, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me what happens. As yeah, it doesn't bother me. So have you had any paranormal experiences? Oh, well, I mentioned my body before. So I have lived in a haunted house. Yeah, when I was from age about 14 to 16, I think we lived in that house. Just trying to remember. We moved a lot when I was a kid, so it's hard for me to keep track. But yeah, we lived in a haunted house. There were unexplainable things happened. Like, it's just a fact. Well, maybe you wouldn't see it as fact if you don't believe in the paranormal, but that's fine. You probably wouldn't be watching this video unless you had some kind of interest in it, or you're just really bored. Who knows? But yeah, I certainly have had paranormal experiences. My father had a friend who had a farm in, I think it was Mudgee, and he and my sister went there many times, and I only went with them once, and I refused to ever go again because that place was haunted AF. And in a very negative way. Like, the haunting I had at my house when I was a teenager was just like, messing around with lights mostly, and a spirit who lived in the bathroom, which at first was a bit weird, but I got used to it. But yeah, this haunting I experienced in this house, at this farmhouse. I have no idea what it was, but it was one of the most terrifying nights of my life. I could not sleep. It was horrific. I never went there again. I don't know if someone was murdered there or what energy I was picking up on, but oh my gosh, it was horrific. Are you out of the broom closet? How do your friends and family feel about it? Yes and no. I have no idea if my grandma has any concept I'm a witch, but it doesn't matter. When I told my mum I was taking classes on witchcraft, she just asked me not to hex my sister. So yeah, like she's fine with it, whatever. Certainly my dad had no idea, because this was kind of all after he passed away that I really self-identified as a witch. We certainly talked about spirituality when he was alive. My dad was, even though he grew up Methodist, he certainly didn't hold to that his whole life. And he lived in Thailand for the 4 years before he died, and he certainly had some aspects of Buddhism that he believed in. So yeah, like, we did have spiritual talks, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he would have thought about the whole thing. He might have just thought I was just being weird, but he was pretty weird and I'm pretty weird, so it works. My friends that I have don't seem to have a problem with it. The two partners I've had since I've started identifying as a witch have been fine with it. Sorry, 3. Sorry, forgot one. Oops. Certainly, I mean, usually people find out when you read tarot, they just want a reading, which I love doing. So I'm happy to do. I just haven't done any for ages, so I'd love to get back into that. I've not had negative experiences with the people I have in my life. certainly people in my past have given me a hard time, and that caused me to block my spirituality or go back into the broom closet to an extent. I even threw out a whole bunch of oracle cards and books at one point, which is one of my biggest regrets, because I also got rid of a massive crystal collection. Ugh. What is something that inspires you? Magic, nature, the moon, water, the ocean. So much inspires me, and people. Oh my gosh, people, particularly queer witches. They're my fave. Where was I? Do you have an altar? Not right now. I have the components of my old altar, which I'm going to rebuild. I'm disabled. I have chronic fatigue. I have constant pain. It has taken me a long time to unpack, and I am not entirely settled into my new home. Like, I'm emotionally settled. Yeah, sure, but I haven't totally unpacked everything and organized everything. Well, it's all unpacked. Well, it's not all unpacked. Most of it's unpacked. It's just not dealt with. So once I restructure everything, I will have an altar again, and that's very exciting. But at present, no. What is the spell you have done? I guess probably, I mean, I've done plenty of spells because I've done spell working groups, but a spell I'm willing to share is I conjured my father in the ocean. I was at a beach one day, and it was the first night of Hanukkah, I believe. I had a Jewish partner at that time who is still a very dear friend of mine, and we went to the beach because we were going to be spending the evening with people from his synagogue, celebrating the first, I'm pretty sure it was the first night of Hanukkah. Now I'm having a bit of confusion as to whether I'm correct about the dates or not, but it was definitely a Jewish festival. And I managed to conjure my father in the ocean and speak to him, so that was pretty cool. Do you have a totem animal? What is it? Okay, so there is a lot of harm around the concept of spirit animals, simply because that term is not ours as white people to use. And I'm not really sure how I feel about totem animal, because that is the term that Indigenous Australians use. But I certainly have animals I connect with on a spiritual level. And maybe, you know, a lot of people are going, oh, I'll call you a Patronus, but as a Harry Potter nerd, I actually do have a Patronus that is very separate to my my magical life. So my mundane and magical life in this case are very separate. And maybe you could call it a demon, like in his Dark Materials, the Philip Pullman series. Cannot wait for that TV show. But anyway, so most people would assume that my main animal is the elephant, which is not correct. The elephant is certainly a maybe power animal, you could say. The elephant is certainly an animal I work with. One of the best days of my life was going to an elephant sanctuary in India and getting to walk with these beautiful creatures and feed them and just bond with them. And oh my gosh, if I could go back, I would go back in a heartbeat. And like, elephants are certainly an animal of power for me, and I love them beyond measure. I get so excited when I see them. I have so many elephant statues and symbols and stickers and pants and, you know, all kinds of things. Elephants are very strongly a creature that I adore. And I mentioned Ganesh, the elephant-headed god, before, who is a favorite of mine. So certainly elephants are a thing for me, but they're not my main animal. My main animal is Arctic fox. Now, you might think that's weird because I'm Australian and we don't have Arctic foxes here. We have red foxes imported from England here, which is terrible, but Arctic fox is my animal. I have done journey work, and I certainly discovered that was the case. And right now I am wearing a fox bracelet on each wrist. I don't know how well you can see that one. But Arctic fox is my soul animal. I had pondered for years, and I always knew it was some kind of woofing, howling, canine, lupine, vulpine. I always knew it was something like that. I always knew it had that energy, but it wasn't until a few years ago when I saw this absolutely stunning photograph of an Arctic fox in its summer coat, and it stared into my soul. This photo stared into my soul, and I just knew. So yeah, Arctic fox is my animal, and hopefully one day I'll get to see one in person. If not, that's what videos and photos are for. But maybe one day I'll get to see one. And there's this great little store on Etsy that I'm planning at some point when I have the money to buy a little Arctic fox totem bag, bottle from, because they ethically source fox fur, and I really want to have some, so that would be great. Favorite pagan holiday that you celebrate? I don't particularly celebrate any of the Wheel of the Year kind of holidays. I have a bit of disconnect about the Wheel of the Year here in Australia, particularly like when you're so online and a lot of people are celebrating, you know, Samhain when it's Beltane here or whatever. And yeah, it's kind of hard to find that balance. So really it's only full moons, it's only really moons that I deal with, and the solstice. I definitely celebrate the solstice. So winter solstice is probably my favorite. Also happens to fall usually on or right next to my bestie's birthday, which is amazing. So he's very blessed, and he doesn't realize how blessed he is. Do you meditate? Yes, I do, every day. That is a practice I have dropped in and out of over the years. At the moment, my wonderful therapist has given me a great little meditation to activate my heart, and I do that every day. I didn't do it when I was sick for the last couple of weeks, but I've gotten back into it in the last week, and it certainly makes a difference. In the morning, I feed the dog, do the meds, etc. But then the first thing I do before I have breakfast or anything is I sit down, I do my journal, and then I meditate, and then I do everything else. Have you gone to a psychic, tarot reading, Reiki master, or healer? I have worked with spiritual healers. An old friend of mine, an old teacher, I suppose, because she did, I guess, help me get onto this path in 2006 via belly dancing, but that's a whole other story. She was still is, I assume, I don't know, we've lost touch over the years, an energy healer, and we did a lot of work around my knees, which really, really helped at that time. That helped get me through a bad period with my knees when we couldn't find any other answers. I've done Reiki. I find these kind of things really helpful. I actually did level 1 as a Reiki practitioner, but I have forgotten everything, and I'd like to do something like that again. I've certainly taken more courses than I have been to people, I guess because I like learning things. I've had my aura photo taken twice, I think. But I'm struggling to think if I've ever actually had a tarot reading for myself. I mean, I've done them myself, but I don't know if I've ever paid anyone. Honestly, don't think I have. What witchy books have influenced you? His Dark Materials, Narnia, Harry Potter. There's so many books out there, but I would say Lucy Cavendish is probably, and Jane Meredith, who are two Australian witches who have both been at one stage or another teachers of mine. Jane Meredith is currently a teacher of mine. They are two Australian witches that I have a great respect of, and are just wonderful authors, so I love their books and devour them whenever I get a chance. So anything by them I would say would be my biggest influence. Favorite witchy website, like Katey, I'm going to say YouTube, definitely YouTube, because there's just so many great people on here. That's just such a great resource. And Facebook can be quite good. I'm in a few amazing groups on Facebook that I just love, and I do see great stuff on Instagram and Twitter. Twitter can be very, very magical. It can be toxic as anything, but yeah, it's also very magical. Favorite witchy movie, like Katey, Practical Magic. Love that movie. I have it on DVD, and the last time I watched it, I think I was in hospital, but I feel like I need to watch it again soon. I love that movie so much. Favorite mythological animal? I'd say tie between the unicorn and the mermaid. They are definitely up there for me. Like, how do you choose? Also dragons. But also I suspect they're all real, but you know, that's something else. Favorite season? Winter. Definitely winter. It's winter right now. You may not think so because I have short sleeves on. This is wool though, so you know, a wool bamboo blend. But yeah, the weather is very warm for winter. It's like 20 something degrees Celsius. I do not know Fahrenheit. And yeah, I prefer the cold. I'm not good in the heat. Come on, we are northern hemisphere creatures. Look at me. I do not belong in the southern hemisphere. My stupid ancestors shouldn't have come here. And then my more recent ancestors, why did they come here? Honestly, my family should have stayed in New Zealand, but you know, never mind. Favorite herb? Does garlic count? I guess I'm not really sure. I don't do really much in the way of kitchen witchery, so probably rosemary because it's so delicious. Favorite gem? Labradorite. Yeah, labradorite. Rune of your choice. I don't work with runes, so I don't have an opinion on this. Tarot card of your choice. My favorite tarot card is the Chariot. It's my birth card, but it's also my favorite card. Symbol or sigil of your choice. My favorite magical symbol is the pentacle, especially after doing the Iron Pentacle, and I'm hoping to do Pearl Pentacle later this year as well. The pentacle is, oh my gosh, it's an incredibly powerful symbol. Your athame. These next questions, your athame, your wand, your cauldron, can all be answered in the same way. No, don't have it. Not interested. Don't do it. It's just not really part of my practice. Your Book of Shadows, it's really my bullet journal. That's where I keep my, like, it's a mix of magical and mundane. It's where I keep stuff. Your tarot deck, I guess this means your favorite tarot deck. Probably I'm still going to say Lumina Tarot is my number one at the moment anyway. Something witch related you want right now. More tarot decks. I really, 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 really want the Next World Tarot to be my next tarot purchase. I saw a review of that and I cannot remember on whose channel it was. Sound of the Wind, maybe? And oh my gosh, I have to have it. I have to have it. Or the Last Unicorn Tarot, which is slightly more expensive and comes from America, so a bit harder. So this video went for a lot longer than I realized. Thank you for watching. If you do this tag, I'd love to see a video. Thank you so much for your time. Many blessings.